What's up, everyone? All right, in today's episode, I'm going to break down my trades from the morning. I am sitting in the green, no surprise, wearing my green shirt. That's right. Now you might say, Ross, weren't you wearing your green shirt yesterday? It was a no trade day. Shh. Don't you worry about that. We're in the present. We stay in the present. And in the present, I'm up 40 grand. Solid green day. And I did it in 10 minutes. That's right. From 8:05 to 8:15. That 10-minute window was all I needed today to lock up $40,000. Let's jump onto the screen share and start breaking it down. Now, I got the same trade in my small account where I made $2,242, which again highlights the fact that if I was only trading in the small account, I would be leaving a lot of money on the table. So not every trade I'm able to take in both accounts. Sometimes it just moves too quickly and I just simply can't. But in this case, I was able to. So that was good. Got some profit in the small account, got some profit in the main account. Feeling pretty good about where I sit now on the week. So let's see. So basically, this is kind of how the day played out. First of all, as you know, we had ZYBT on Monday, made this huge move. It's now come back down. But, you know, unbelievable 1,000% squeeze, just insane. So this is all sort of setting the stage of the current context. So we get this huge move here. Then yesterday, CPHI makes an even bigger move, 2,200% from 60 cents a share all the way up to nearly $20. Sells off, bounces back up, sells off, bounces back up, and selling off really hard right here. I mean, from $7 down to $2. Okay, so, you know, look, not surprised. These are Chinese stocks. What did they do? They did an offering. So you get that big move, they do an offering, they sell more shares on the open market, and, you know, that's it. Let me take a sip of water. Hang on one second. Matching. Green water bottle, green shirt. All right, so we're in really good shape today. Okay, so then because we had this theme of biotech stocks making big moves, I was aware of that. Of course, these were Chinese stocks with no news. So, you know, wasn't really sure we could trust it. We had INM this morning, biotech stock, that comes out with news of a $200 million private placement for advancing their migraine prevention medication. It goes from $1 yesterday up to a high of $5.50 and then flushes all the way back down. On a $200 million private placement. That's surprising. That's a lot of money. I'm really surprised. So then I thought, well, geez, even a stock with what would typically be a really good catalyst isn't working. I don't know what to do today. This might be a no trade day. And that's what I said. This might be a no trade day. This might be a week where it's just this whole, you know, no news China thing is a little distraction and I'm just going to miss it because I don't trade later in the day. Typically, I've got other things I got to get done. And that's how I've just, you know, set up my life and my schedule, and I stick to it. I don't really try. I try not to make exceptions because the one day you make an exception might be the day it doesn't work well, and then you just feel frustrated. So anyways, then LABT pops up on the scanner with news at 8 a.m., and I kind of wrote it off. I was like, nah, I don't think this is going to work. It's a stock with news, but remember, people only like stocks with no news. So it's hitting the scanner here. This is the headline. Phase 2. All right, so, you know, better than phase 1, but still taking it with a grain of salt. And as you can see here, we went from $1.50 all the way up to $8 a share, and we got a 300% move. Holy smokes. So where did I finally break the ice? All right, we're going to switch this to actually a 10-second chart so I can keep my trend lines on, and we're going to get dialed in on it. Oh, before we do, let's look at the daily chart. So daily chart on this, somewhat recent IPO, sold off. They had to do a reverse split, curling up today. Today's the highest volume day it has ever had. And I thought that was important, that it was a high volume day ever, highest ever, because it, to me, reduced the likelihood of bag holders from previous moves that would be selling just to, you know, get out and take profit. So on the 1-minute chart, now the 10-second time frame actually, we're going to back this up. So when we initially start popping up right here, right after 8 a.m., I didn't think much of it. I was like, nah, I don't know. Then it squeezes up here to a high of 3, and I was like, okay, that's a nice move. Micro pullback, and it goes to 360, and I was like, wow. Okay, I need to focus on this. Then it pulls back, then it pops up here, and that's where I took my first entry right here, looking for the breakthrough 360, and then adding as it squeezed higher. It goes to 4, 450, 5. I'm still adding into the move. Now we're getting pretty much a parabolic squeeze. All of a sudden it prints 698 just for a second, and it flushes right back down. There weren't a lot of shares that went through up there, so it flushes right back down. I'm like, oh, okay. So I get out. I take my profit. Then it bounces back up right here. That first trade was about $20,000 of profit, 23,000, something like that. It dips down, and I start doing dip trades. I buy the dip, I sell as it pops back up. Did a little dip, adding up here for the breakout. This one didn't really work very well. Drops back down. And through this area, I was watching for the break back over 550 and then the break of 6. And right here, it pops over 550. Then it comes up to 6. And so I'm trading these little breakouts here and then adding as we squeeze up for a second time up to 7 and then all out as we get that push and it forms another topping tail. So now what I ended up doing, I drew a couple lines. I drew this line right here at the previous high of day, which was 698. And I drew this ascending line right here by connecting the tops of these candles, just like that on the 10 second, on the 1 minute though is where I drew it. And then I drew another trend line at the high of day, and then I ended up having another trend line here. So kind of drew a few different trend lines. We sell off, pull back, then we rally back up here again, and we get this big squeeze back up there. I did not trade that one. That one I missed. I did not think that it was going to be able to make that that move, because at that point on the 1 minute chart, I sort of felt like, you know, we've got these two topping tails, ascending resistance. I don't know. MACD's negative. I don't think it's going to happen. So I actually got up. I walked away from my desk for a second. Then I heard ding, ding, ding. I came back and I had just missed the move. And I was like, well, whatever. I wasn't going to trade that anyways because the MACD was negative. I didn't think it was going to work. So, you know, so all of a sudden, you know, things just sort of, we got this big move. And then it kind of slowed down and kind of went sideways. And that was sort of it. So, you know, that ended up being very impressive. Right now, you've got ZCMD squeezing up. Guess what? It's a Chinese stock from $2 to $6.60. You know, it's the latest one today. And I think on the one hand, you know, traders are going to be like, okay, this one's going to be the next one to go up 1,000%, right? But I think you also have to remember that stocks going up 1,000% on no news doesn't last forever. And eventually the companies are going to take the opportunity just to sell shares because holy smokes, it's like a gift for them. Their stock's up 1,000% with literally no news. So it would almost be like against their fiduciary best interest for shareholders not to sell a little bit when they have the opportunity, because then that means they don't have to do an offering later at a lower price. So sell some shares. And short sellers are going to get, you know, onto this that, okay, well, you know, look at ZYBT on Monday. You know, this one's now back at $1. So I just have to make sure I don't get in too early so I don't get squeezed out. CPHI, what's that back to? $1.96, right? So shorting these works as long as you're not in too soon. But how soon is too soon, right? When is too late? And that's the thing. You could have shorted it on the backside here, and then it goes from 8 to 16. What if it ripped through the new high and then it's at $25, $30 a share, right? See, that's the thing, is all of a sudden things can get out of hand pretty quickly with these. So, you know, so I'm not trading to the short side, but I think that you just have to be aware of the fact that there's probably some limit to what we can expect. And, you know, look, if you're doing well and making money, by all means, you know, keep at it. But just remember that at a certain point, these will probably stop working. And when that happens, you know, whenever it is, you got to make sure you adjust quickly to take your foot off the gas. So you're not still going like full throttle while these are starting to fail. But today, ZCMD up 348%. I don't know if it's going to go to 1,000%. I almost feel like it might not because it's moving almost too quickly right now, which is kind of like a symptom of FOMO, that traders are jumping on something really, really fast. So it's not having as much of a chance to build up. It's probably not also having as much of a chance to trap short sellers. So then the people buying up here might not be shorts covering. It might be longs just chasing, hoping for short covering, but I don't know if this has the same dynamics as the other ones from the other day. The last 2 days, they were more late morning, afternoon moves. I think they had more time to build up and accumulate shorts. And after two big moves, I think shorts are probably going to be pretty cautious. So anyways, I'm not trading it, just my 2 cents from the sidelines. This is always a challenge of, when's the right place to walk away? Should I push it harder? And this could be an $80,000 day. I didn't give back profit off the top. I just finished basically at high a day, and there were no more setups on LABT, and then the bell rang, and I thought, trading after the open and dealing with halts creates this extra risk. Because what can happen here, so right now we're showing a resumption at $7.99, $8. Because the market has been so hot, this might go into a fourth halt. It's already done one halt, two halts. That's a third halt in a row. So let's say it does a fourth halt. Let's say it halts up at 8. What's going to happen, most likely, sooner or later, is that this will resume and it'll halt down. And when it halts down, and this can halt in as little as 15 seconds. So if you don't have a chance to get out before it halts going down, you're going to be stuck. You're going to be stuck in the halt. And because it halted going down, all of a sudden the sentiment has swung from the fear of missing out and the greed of I want to make money on this next big move to the fear of I'm going to catch a big loss, or maybe greed on short sellers' part of I want to hit this to the short side, and it's going to flush back down. So if it halts down, then it's going to probably show a lower resumption. So if it halts down, if it goes up to 10 and then halts down at 8, it might show a resumption of like $6. So now it's showing, in that halt down scenario, a gap lower. It opens, it could halt down a second time, and you're still stuck. Especially if you're using one of the slower brokers. Now, there's some brokers out there that are really fast. You can get in and out so quickly. And there's others where, you're going to be fumbling a little bit. And this is not a stock where you want to fumble. Because if you're fumbling on this kind of stock, you could get completely smoked. That's the issue. So showing right now, a resumption of 801 is a 10-minute long halt. So on this one, we're getting these longer halts. This one was halted from 9:46 until 10:16 previously. So it was a 30-minute long halt. Halted from trading for 30 minutes. Why? It's because it was gapping up so much. The previous halt was 15 minutes, and then the next one's 30 minutes. But they're making these long halts. It's essentially slowing down the momentum. It's because the gaps are so much higher, it's extending the halt time. So arguably, this same move, if it occurred pre-market, pre-market is when you could actually see a stock go, like CPHI, from $10 to $14 in 5 minutes, in less than 5 minutes, just straight up from $10 to $16 a share. We've had stocks that went up like $20, $30 a share in pre-market, and they don't get halted. They just keep trading. They just go higher, 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 higher. And you can get out anytime you want, and you could add anytime you want, and it's perfectly liquid. You're not fumbling around dealing with halts. Now, yes, it's volatile. They can also drop like that. You could see this drop was from 7 back down to $1.83, no halts. So, you've got to be careful, but I much prefer to trade during the pre-market or after hour session without halts at this point because of just that feeling of being stuck. And then what about the risk of a T12? What about the risk that the regulators come in and say, you know what, we've had enough of this. ZCMD, you're halted until you put out news. We're just putting a clamp down on this. We're stopping it. So now it's going to be halted, if that was the case, for 4 or 5 hours until the company puts out a headline. What time is it in China? Are we going to get a headline out today? Maybe it's not. Maybe it doesn't resume till tomorrow. So if you've got a short position, now you're going to pay borrowing fees for 2 days overnight. What if it's halted for a week? Well, now you're paying borrowing fees for a week if you're short. If you're long, your money's tied up. If you're in on leverage, then you're paying interest on the leverage, although that's going to be a smaller amount of money than the daily interest rate than the locate fees for borrowing a short. So all of this just creates a bit more risk. I would rather just trade pre-market. So anyways, that's where I'm at. Good luck if you traded it today or if you're still trading it, depending on when you watch this episode. But I'm going to take the money and be grateful for the green day. Today is the biggest green day for the month of July. Monday was the biggest green day, and I beat Monday by $14,000. So now 2 of the biggest green days of the whole month in 1 week. I'm up $65,000, $66,000 on the week. Nice. All right. So we've still got A couple days left. Let's see what we can do on Thursday and Friday. Those of you guys who haven't already checked out a 2-week trial here at Warrior Trading, I hope you check it out. During the trial, you can use the same software I'm using, real-time charting, scanning, real-time scanning, breaking news feed. We've also got the chat rooms, of course, where you can tune into our broadcasts. I broadcast in the pre-market session, and then I have other traders who have earned their $1 million badges here at Warrior Trading who broadcast at different times of the day to give you guys more content. We've got our sim trading platform here, so you can practice jumping in, jumping out. So if I pull up ZCMD, it'll say equity halted. Can't trade it, right? But it does show you the resumption quotes. Then you can go through the first 6 chapters of Day Trading the Basics as part of your 2-week trial for $20. So go through it. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you back at it first thing tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. But let me remind you, as always, that trading is risky and my results aren't typical. So please manage your risk by practicing in that simulator before putting real money on the line, and take it slow. All right, so with that, I'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning.